The city was dying, and Serah Mourn broke every law to save it. For that, they branded her a traitor and cast her into exile. But some flames don't die, they wait. Now, the fire is waking, and it remembers who lit the spark. Welcome back, traveler. Before we set course tonight, take a second to anchor us. A thumbs up or a comment is like a signal ping through the void. It lets me know someone's out there. And if you feel like journeying with us again, subscribing opens the hatch to all future missions. Dim the lights. Get comfortable. Tonight, we drift into the unknown. Prologue. The spark that stayed. Some flames refuse to go out, not because of fuel, but because of memory. The trial chamber stank of copper and ozone. Emberlight glared from above, sharp as judgment, casting long shadows over the polished brass floor. Serah Mourn stood chained at the center dais, chin held high. Her coat was torn, her hands were burned, but her eyes, those ember-flecked eyes, did not waver. You defied the guild's order, activated a restricted core system, and endangered 3 entire districts, Magister Drek intoned, voice metallic beneath the vox mask. I saved Cauldron, Serah said. I stopped a collapse the guild ignored. Drek slammed a fist on the flame-glass lectern. At what cost? Better question, Serah replied. At whose convenience? The tribunal murmured. Ro Malrix, the forge marshal, remained silent, arms folded, helmet under one arm, eyes cold. Veneer, the orator, stepped forward. You're not being made a scapegoat, Serah. You're being held accountable. For surviving? For disobedience. Serah's gaze swept the assembly. No one met her eyes. You'll regret this, she said quietly. One day, the flame will remember who lit it. Magister Drek raised the sentence scroll. By decree of the Guild of Flamewrights, Serah Mourn is hereby exiled. Her name stricken, her credentials void, her ember brand removed. The brand seared from her palm in a flash of controlled flame. Serah flinched, but only once. You may keep your life, Veneer said, but not your legend. She met his gaze with something between pity and rage. You can strike a name from the records, not from fire. They dragged her away. The door slammed shut. Silence reclaimed the chamber. High above, the memory flame flickered once, and did not go out. Far below the city, in a dead vent shaft forgotten by the guild's mapping protocols, a small ember sputtered into existence. It hovered in still air, waited, and began to glow. Chapter 1. Ashes above. Cities don't burn quietly. They scream into the sky, even if only memory hears it. Serah Mourn crouched behind the rusted husk of a derailed tram, coat flapping in the high-altitude wind. Smoke billowed from the western spire of Pyra, thick, oily, and tinged with emberlight. Tell me again, Kip's voice crackled through the comm bead. Why are we doing this at sunrise? Because that's when the guild thinks no one's watching, Serah replied. And because we're stupid, he muttered. She smirked and tapped the bead. Confirmed. She stepped out into the ruined street, boots crunching over shattered flame glass. The scent of oxidized brass and old fire filled her lungs. Sanctum Pyra was waking. She could feel it. Ash moved beside her, silent as a shadow. The tall figure didn't speak, didn't need to. Their presence alone calmed the tremor beneath her ribs. Serah reached the outer relay node. Burned, dead, just like the guild left it. They gutted it, she muttered. Typical. Kip's voice. I've got another node 2 blocks north, might still be warm. On it. She and Ash moved fast, across collapsed bridges, over creaking balconies. Pyra groaned beneath them like an old god shaking off rust. At the second node, Serah dropped to one knee, pried the panel open and whistled. Well, someone's been busy, she said. Ash tilted their head. What do you see? Bypass wiring, custom relays. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. It's... The node flared. A spark leapt to her hand, tracing the lines of her old Ember brand. It should have been dead. Serah stared at her palm. The brand, long dormant, pulsed faintly. Ash knelt beside her. The core knows you. Impossible, she whispered. I was erased. Memory doesn't obey decree. They locked eyes. Serah's heartbeat echoed with the rhythm of the node, and for a moment Pyra, the real Pyra, exhaled around her. Then the wind shifted. Ash stood abruptly, eyes narrowing. What? Drones, Ash said. Guild grade, 2 minutes out. Kip again. We've got movement up here too. Skiffs, not ours. Serah closed the panel, fingers tight. Well, she said, fire kindling in her voice. Guess we'll see how long memory can run. She stood tall, coat snapping in the wind. Let them come. Chapter 2. The city that shouldn't burn. A city isn't made of walls. It's made of the things people try to forget inside them. The sun hung low over Pyra, casting jagged shadows through the skeletal remains of the eastern towers. Fire veins ran faintly beneath the cracked walkways, old arteries aching for memory. Serah Mourn paced through the corridor of the old Emberguard hall, boots echoing against soot-blackened tiles. Ash walked beside her, wordless. Kip trailed behind, scanning the walls with a handheld reader. You know, Kip said, brushing a scorched mural with his sleeve, when people say you're bringing a dead city back to life, they usually mean metaphorically. Serah didn't slow. This isn't metaphor. This is Pyra remembering how to breathe. He squinted at his reader. And what if it remembers why it stopped? That's the part we rewrite. They entered the grand antechamber. Once a place of ceremony, now a grave of forgotten names. Ash stepped to the center, where the Ember throne had once stood before the collapse. Serah ran her hand along the wall. It pulsed. It's responding, she said. Kip frowned. To you? Number 2, all of us. Ash turned. The city doesn't want a master. It wants a witness. The floor vibrated, not violently, but insistently. Light seeped from the seams in the stone, forming flickering symbols across the chamber. Not just emberglyphs, memories. A vision swelled around them, a younger Serah shouting into a storm of collapsing machinery, fire sweeping through the cathedral spires, a voice, her own, yelling for someone named Coil. Kip staggered. This is real. Ash placed a hand to the floor. The core is broadcasting, testing resonance. It's testing me, Serah muttered. I'm not who I was. The light dimmed. The symbols faded, but not completely. One ember remained, flickering near the throne's outline. Serah approached it. Ash said nothing. Kip held his breath. She reached down. The ember didn't burn. It recognized. Her ember brand lit up in answer. And the city, for the first time in decades, hummed. Chapter 3. Doctrine of the Black Flame. The guild never feared the flame. They feared what it remembered. Far above Pyra, in the floating tribunal arc, the guild's inner sanctum glowed cold. Choirmaster Alreth stood before a suspended flame-glass map, watching the pulse of Pyra's reactivation ripple outward. His mirrored mask reflected the faint emberline now rekindled. Impossible, muttered Magister Drek. The core was sealed, scrubbed. It was not destroyed, Alreth replied. And memory is stubborn. He turned toward the others. A dozen masked figures in black-robed choir armor stood at silent attention. Veneer, now promoted to Inquisitor, stepped forward. It's her. It has to be. Drek paced. She was exiled, her brand stripped. And yet, Alreth said, turning his mask toward the Emberlight, the city responds to her like a favored child. Veneer crossed his arms. The population is destabilized. Trade lines are shifting. Minor thrones are pinging inquiries. This resurgence could shatter containment. Alreth raised a hand. Then we will contain it. The lights dimmed. The choir moved as one, silent, synchronized, sanctioned. Meanwhile, far below, in the underlayers of Sanctum Pyra, the team worked tirelessly. Bran had returned, bearing heavy parts on his shoulders like a walking furnace. His arrival had caused little fanfare, but his presence filled the air with quiet certainty. Kip unspooled wiring beside a deactivated relay. I don't get it, he said. Why would the guild let this place rot? It's incredible. Bran grunted. Because they couldn't control it, so they buried it. Ash knelt beside a glyph plate. Flame sparked beneath their fingers. They feared what it would show, they said, not what it could do. Serah stood above them, looking out over the cracked rooftops. Emberlight flared faintly across the skyline. They tried to rewrite it, she said. But Pyra remembers. And it remembers you, Bran said. Serah turned to him. That's what worries me. Back in the Tribunal Arc, Alreth studied a memory shard projected on the wall. Serah, caught in mid-motion, her eyes blazing with unshaped fire. She does not yet understand what she is, Alreth said. Drek frowned. A threat. A question, Alreth replied. He turned to his choir. Gather the ships, prepare the descent. The mirrored masks all nodded once. And send a message to the Black Flame, Alreth added. The Exile is lighting embers again. Chapter 4. The Reliquary Below. The past isn't dead. It's just waiting for the right voice to open the door. The hidden passage revealed itself, not with sound, but with a sigh. Beneath the collapsed civic archive, where fire once caved in the floors and flame glass warped into skeletal spires, Ash found the glyph. Here, they said, brushing away soot and carbon-scored brass. Serah knelt beside them. The glyph shimmered faintly, a spiraling eye encircled by embers. One of the oldest symbols in Pyra's lexicon, one not taught in guild script. It's a reliquary seal, she said. This was hidden before the core ever flickered. Kip peeked over her shoulder. I vote we open it, get haunted and run screaming, but that's just my instinct talking. Bran chuckled quietly. One way or another, something's waking up. Ash pressed their palm to the glyph. The seal reacted immediately, not violently, but as if sighing in relief. Stone shifted. Flame ran through old veins. A door opened. Beneath the archive, an ancient staircase spiraled down into heatless dark. The chamber below pulsed with memory. It was massive, circular, and lined with thousands of fire crystals, not glowing, but recording. Each one hummed with faint impressions, whispers, names, faces. The memory reliquary, Serah whispered. I thought this was legend. Ash moved through the rows, their hands brushing crystal after crystal. These aren't just stories, they said. They're people. Kip tapped a console half buried in dust, encrypted with pre-guild ember glyphs, way older than Pyra's mainframe. This tech is beautifully wrong. Bran frowned. Why bury it? Serah pointed at the ceiling. Dozens of sigils blazed to life, none matching any known guild design. Some pulsed like heartbeats. Others shifted based on who was watching. They weren't hiding it from the world, she said. They were hiding it from the guild. Ash stopped at one crystal, darker than the rest. This one is warm. Serah stepped closer. Her ember brand pulsed. She reached out and touched it. A flood of images hit her. The first ember guard rising from volcanic ruin, the throne's birth, the Pact of Memory Keepers. A name, Ashar Veln, whispered like flame on wind. She gasped and staggered back. Kip caught her. What did you see? A warning, she said, and a promise. She looked to the others. We're not the first to fight for Pyra, but we might be the last ones who can save it. Chapter 5. Old Ghosts, New Embers. Sometimes the only way forward is through the people you never meant to bring with you. The storm that rolled over Pyra that evening wasn't weather. It was a memory of one. The skies pulsed with lightning born of static from awakening systems, long dormant circuits vibrating against each other like haunted strings. Ash stood at the edge of the Ember Guard barracks, watching the flickering arcs above. Looks like the city's nervous, Kip said, adjusting the settings on a portable relay booster. Or hungry. Both, Bran said. He walked in with quiet certainty, his coat rain-slicked, a heavy pack over one shoulder. Serah turned from the old weapons rack. You came back. Bran set the pack down with a thud. I heard what happened, what you lit. Kip waved a spark detector. She practically rebooted the core from a dead pulse, and maybe invited every guild eye back to our doorstep. Ash didn't move. They're already here, watching. Measuring Bran nodded grimly. Then we stopped waiting. Later, in the inner council chamber, the group sat around the fractured round table, a relic of the original Ember Guard. "We can't hold Pyra alone," Serah said. "Not against the full guild." Bran raised an eyebrow. "Then we don't." Kip frowned. That sounded a lot like a surrender plan. "No," Bran said, unrolling a map. "It's a signal." He traced a finger along the Emberline, the hidden connection between thrones, once used only in myth. These cities were built to speak, they just forgot how. Serah leaned over the map. "Then we remind them." Ash closed their eyes. Their brand shimmered. Lines on the map lit up, faint at first, then flaring with subtle recognition. Bran smiled. "You've already started." "Not enough," Serah said. "We need to awaken another throne." Kip looked up. "Any preferences? Or are we just going to knock on the closest ruined city and hope something answers?" Ash opened their eyes. "I know where to go," they said. Bran nodded. "Then we follow." Serah looked around the table, at her misfit crew, her unexpected allies, her old ghosts made new. "If we're doing this," she said, "we do it as one Ember." Kip raised a hand. "I'm in, even if I end up slightly more on fire than usual." Bran grinned. "Wouldn't be the first time." Ash simply stood. "Let's go." Chapter 6. The Emberline Pact. A city does not rise because it is rebuilt. It rises because someone believes it should. The core spire pulsed with a rhythm no one had heard in generations, a quiet thrum beneath the floor, like a distant heartbeat. Serah stood at the center of the flame-ringed chamber, the others arrayed around her. Kip leaned against a cracked pillar, arms crossed. Ash stood at her right, expression unreadable. Bran watched the walls, always scanning, always measuring. "So," Kip said, "are we officially the weirdest band of misfits in guild history?" Bran didn't blink. "We'd have competition, but yes." Serah ignored the banter. She stepped forward, raising the Ember brand in her palm. The core responded, fire coiling upward like smoke in reverse. Mother Coil's voice, recorded in layered tones, echoed through the chamber. When memory is shared, it becomes purpose. When purpose is chosen, it becomes pact. The flames circled outward, connecting the four of them in a ring. Serah spoke clearly. "We stand as stewards, not rulers. As keepers, not conquerors. Pyra remembers because we make it remember." Bran stepped in. "We guard the Ember, not with force, but with fire that listens." Ash placed a hand over their chest. "Flame given, flame kept, flame shared." Kip raised both eyebrows. "And we agree not to burn anything down unless absolutely necessary." Serah smiled faintly. "That too." The flame pulsed once, deep and resonant. The pact was accepted. Later, in the upper tiers of the city, repairs moved swiftly. Ash directed flame veins along crumbling bridges, regenerating supports. Kip tested a new skiff engine, bouncing with excitement. Bran taught a group of orphans how to recite the first lines of the Ember Guard's vigil. Serah watched it all from a high balcony. The city was changing, not back to what it was, but forward, towards something else, something awake. Ash joined her, silently. "It's working," she said. Ash nodded. "But it won't go unnoticed." "I know." They turned together toward the horizon. Faint lights flickered beyond the clouds. Signals, not just from the guild, from other places, other thrones. "They're waking up," Serah said. Ash's eyes flared. The Emberline stirs. Chapter 7. The choir descends. Judgment often arrives not with truth, but with perfect choreography and sharpened doctrine. Thunder cracked across the skies of Sanctum Pyra, not weather, but engines. Serah stepped onto the northern watchtower, coat whipping in the high wind. Overhead, silver darts cut through the clouds, Guild skiffs, sleek and silent, bearing the sigils of the Purity Choir. Kip joined her at the railing. "They're early. Thought we had more time." "They don't wait when they smell heresy," Serah said. Bran emerged from the inner stair, strapping on his shoulder guard. "Dreadnought class, or something subtler?" "Subtler," Serah said, narrowing her eyes. "For now." Ash stood farther back, hand outstretched, sensing. "There are 8, they said, but only one speaks." Down in the market square, half restored, still reeking of old soot, the choir arrived without fanfare. Their robes were mirror black, faceless masks etched with flame sigils. Leading them was choirmaster Alreth, taller than most, face hidden by polished brass. His voice carried without amplification. "We seek the bearer of the false flame," he declared. "Let her come forward." Serah stepped into the square. The crowd parted. "I'm not hiding," she said. Alreth's mask tilted. "You reactivated a forbidden throne. You called the Ember. You forged a pact without sanction." "I did," Serah said, "and I'll do it again." Alreth took a single step forward. "Do you deny the Guild's authority?" "I deny their memory," she said, "because it's broken." A ripple of murmurs passed through the square. "You are warned," Alreth said. "Withdraw from the core. Disband your enclave. Return the Ember to Guild hands." Bran appeared at her side. "And if she doesn't?" Alreth raised one gloved hand. The choir stepped forward as one. Serah didn't flinch. "Then we show them why Pyra still burns." Ash raised both hands, and fire circled the plaza, not attacking, but rising in a wall of memory light. Images formed in the flames. Past exiles, lost cities, moments the Guild had tried to erase. The crowd gasped. One of the choir agents staggered back. "They're seeing their own lives," Kip whispered. "Things they forgot." Serah met Alreth's masked face. "This is what the Ember shows. Not fear. Truth." Alreth didn't move. Then, slowly, he lowered his hand. "This is not over," he said. "No," Serah replied. "It's only begun." Chapter 8. Whispers in the core. When the flame speaks, it doesn't shout. It remembers. The Ember core chamber pulsed with a low, resonant hum. Not sound exactly, but a pressure that lived behind the ears. Serah stood at the threshold, staring into the concentric rings of flame and memory. The core had grown since her first awakening. It was no longer dormant, it was listening. Ash stood beside her, one hand lightly brushing the flame glass column. "It wants to show you something," they said. Serah hesitated. "Or someone." She stepped forward. The moment her foot crossed the final line, the core flared. Fire spiraled inward, drawing her into a slow orbit around the central gyroscope, a star captured in brass. Then, the voices came, whispers, names, places, her mother's lullaby, Coil's hymn, Kip's laughter, Bran's quiet oath, and beneath it all, a deeper voice, worn, warm, and impossibly old. "You have walked far, Serah Mourn." A figure appeared in the center of the core, not solid, not hologram, a memory made manifest. Asharvel and Serah drew a breath. "You're dead." Asha nodded. "And remembered, which is the same as living here. Why show yourself now?" "Because you lit the Emberline, and because you still doubt." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She did doubt. The path, the cost. Asha extended a hand, not to comfort, but to anchor. "You are not the answer, Serah. You are the next question." The core pulsed again, harder now. Images surged into her mind, maps, stars, thrones long buried. One near Virex's spine pulsing weakly. One sealed under frozen glass. One burning in secret. Serah gasped. Ash stepped into the chamber, reaching for her arm. "What did you see?" "Everything," she whispered. "The Ember thrones. They were never just cities. They were voices." Kip's voice echoed from the upper walkway. Hate to break the moment, but something just lit up the sky outside." "Guild again?" Bran answered. "Number 2 erratic. That's not them." Serah steadied herself. The flame within her chest mirrored the core's rhythm. "It's another throne," she said. "It's answering." Ash nodded. The Emberline awakens. Chapter 9. The Siege of Pyra. When they could not silence the flame, they tried to bury it under thunder. The sky tore open at dawn, engines roared like ruptured storms, and the first guild dreadnought breached the upper cloud line. Its prow glowed red-hot, rune-scorched and bristling with cannons. Behind it followed 5 more, fanned into a tactical crescent. On the highest parapet of the core spire, Serah stood, watching it unfold. "They've committed everything," Bran said, stepping up beside her. His armor gleamed with fresh etchings, not for glory, but for remembrance. "They always said Pyra was a scar," Serah murmured. "Now they want to cauterize it." Below, Kip sprinted along the rooftops, slapping nodes into place. "We have about 6 minutes until their forward batteries are in range," he shouted into the ethercom. "Unless someone here has a miracle, we're toast with extra sizzle." Ash stood in the courtyard, eyes closed, palms facing the ground. Flame began to rise, slowly at first, then in widening circles, encasing the city in a veil of gold and red. "The core's responding," Ash said softly. "It remembers how to protect." Serah reached out and touched the nearest flame vein. It glowed against her skin, then surged outward, like a pulse through a sleeping body. "All right," she said. "Let's give them something to regret." The first salvo struck and dissolved mid-air. Guild missiles burst into sprays of molten pollen, diffusing before impact. The dreadnoughts pulled up sharply, pilots shouting into failing comms. "Countermeasures are failing," one captain whispered. "The city, it's rewriting the trajectory." On the ground, Pyra shimmered. Towers long dormant lifted their heads. Walkways reformed mid-step. The city was waking not in panic, but in memory. At the heart of it all, Mother Coil stood silently on the steps of the Ember core chamber, watching it burn with impossible light. "You always wanted to be more than machine," she said to the flame. "Then be more." She turned, walked into the core, and placed her palm to the central pillar. "Let them see what we were." Her body dissolved into light, and Pyra remembered. In the streets, civilians stopped running. They turned as flameglow passed over them, showing them old echoes, their own pasts, their ancestors, their lost futures. Some wept, others knelt. Even among the guild crews, stunned faces turned toward their view screens, seeing family members they'd thought erased, now standing in firelight as though waiting to be remembered. On the spire, Kip exhaled hard. "Okay, not a miracle. But I'll take living flame memory shockwave over missiles any day." Bran chuckled. "We're not fighting, we're witnessing." Serah closed her eyes. The guild's assault halted, not from defeat, but from disarmament. And above them all, the Emberline pulsed again, one throne burning, another stirring, more yet to come. Chapter 10. The Living Flame. Flame, untended, consumes. Flame, remembered, becomes. The skies above Pyra were quiet again. Guild dreadnoughts had retreated beyond the horizon. Their crews, rattled by visions and echo memories, left their weapons cold. In their wake, the city shimmered, not untouched, but unchanged in the way mountains endure storms. Serah stood on the balcony outside the core spire. The wind tugged at her coat. Below, Sanctum Pyra breathed in slow, emberlit pulses. Kip approached with careful steps. "So, you win, or something close to it." "I didn't fight," Serah replied. "Exactly." He leaned on the railing beside her. "Which is probably why you won." Footsteps echoed behind them. Bran and Ash emerged together, both marked by the core's flame. Ash in silence, glowing brighter than ever. Bran carrying the ceremonial mantle of the newly formed Ember Guard. "It's ready," Bran said. Serah nodded. "Then let's go." Inside the core, memory flame coiled through the chamber like breath. The columns thrummed with warmth, not heat. Light moved not outward, but inward, forming a spiral around the center platform. Ash stepped into the spiral. The flame didn't resist. It welcomed them. Serah stepped forward. You don't have to do this alone. Ash turned, eyes now fully alight. I was never alone, not since the day you found me. They reached out, not for farewell, but for passage. Serah took their hand. Fire leapt. Around them, the core bloomed. Symbols burst into being, ember glyphs, ancient runes, constellations of flame. Voices sang from the memory strata. The fire lifted Ash into the air. Their form became radiant, not burned, but transformed. Serah watched as they hovered, then slowly descended again, not as a conduit, but as the next living flame. Ash opened their eyes. They smiled. It remembers all of us now, they said. In the following days, Pyra changed. Walkways bloomed with new flame glass. Ember Guard patrols moved not to police, but to protect. Kip established open ports for neighboring drift cities. Refugees came, not for safety alone, but to witness a city that knew itself. Bran knelt at the central hearth shrine and lit a blue flame in Coil's honor. "Thank you," he whispered, "for believing in a flame that could choose." Ash walked the city rarely, but when they did, children followed, not for answers, just to feel the warmth. And at night, Serah would sometimes climb to the highest spire, close her eyes, and feel the emberline hum beneath her feet. Not a weapon, a witness, a spark that would not die. Chapter 11. Memorykind. We are not made of victories or scars. We are made of what we choose to remember. Sanctum Pyra no longer hissed or groaned beneath the weight of its memories. It hummed, not the mechanical pulse of function, but the quiet music of Memorykind, of lives lived and reclaimed. Bran walked the length of the inner promenade, his new Emberguard recruits keeping formation beside him. Children followed at a respectful distance, whispering. At every corner they passed flame-glass panels showing scenes from the siege, not of war, but of transformation. Pyra didn't erase the past. It framed it. He stopped at the shrine to Coil. Someone had left a small metal flower. He bent, smiled, and lit the center with a tiny ember from his ring. In the hangar bays, Kip supervised the launch of 3 new skiffs, not warcraft but emissaries. Pyra now traded memory for resources, stories for supplies. "Don't overload the stabilizers," he called to a wide-eyed pilot. "Pyra floats because we whisper to the wind, not because we bully it." One of the newer engineers approached. "Is it true? The city used to burn everything it touched?" Kip shrugged. "Nah, it just didn't know how to listen." On the core spire's upper tiers, Ash walked quietly through the Hall of Names. Every citizen, fallen or present, had a place there now, etched not in stone, but in living flame. They stopped before a single name, Serah Mourn. Ash touched the glyph gently. "You are remembered." Serah stood at the edge of a launch dock, wind streaming through her hair. A smaller skiff floated beside her, rigged for long-range navigation. Bran approached. "You really leaving?" She nodded. "The Emberline's not done. There are other thrones, other cities. They might still be asleep." He looked down. "We could use a leader." "You have one," she said, gesturing toward Ash. "You just don't need me anymore." He smiled. "Still, I'll miss you." She stepped forward and hugged him. "I'll be back," she said. "And if you're not, then light the flame and tell my story." The skiff rose. As it pulled away, Kip raised a flare. The Ember Guard saluted. Ash whispered to the core. The wind shifted in her favor. Serah didn't look back. She didn't have to. Chapter 12. Ash Ascendant. To become the flame is not to burn. It is to carry light into places too dark for memory. Ash sat cross-legged in the Ember core chamber. Around them, flame drifted in impossible shapes. Words without alphabet, echoes without voices. They breathed slowly. They were becoming. Kip watched from the observation ring above, nervously chewing a synth-fruit core. "Should we be worried?" Bran stood beside him, arms crossed. "Worried? Number." then why do I feel like I'm watching the birth of a new element? Because you are. Within the core, Ash heard every emberline thread at once, the pulse of Pyra, the flicker of distant thrones, even the subtle murmur of the hollow reaches. A child's voice echoed. Serah? Ash turned. They stood in a memory, or perhaps a future. The boy stood alone in a courtyard of shattered metal and ash. He looked up at them, not frightened, but expectant. It lit up when I said your name. Ash knelt. What is your name? Saul. Ash reached out, flame moving gently around them. You are not alone, Saul. I know. She's coming. The memory dissolved, or perhaps was stored. Ash opened their eyes. The core pulsed, not for Serah, not for the past, for the future. Later, on the highest spire, the city gathered. Ash stood before them, no longer cloaked, no longer silent. They raised both hands. The flame obeyed. A soft ring of light swept across Pyra, waking every dormant thread. Names appeared on buildings, voices sang from alleys. The city didn't erupt, it exhaled. Kip wiped his eyes. They're not ruling it, they're reminding it. Bran smiled. It remembers us, because we remembered it. Ash looked to the sky, and a light answered. Far off, barely more than a shimmer, another throne, still flickering, but no longer alone. Chapter 13. The Ember Reclaimed. It was never about the flame, it was always about who carried it. The hollow reaches were silent. Dust stirred like breath over broken stones. Shattered spires leaned against the horizon, time-worn and abandoned. In the heart of it, beneath a forgotten plaza, Saul waited. The ember glyph still glowed faintly in the ash. He knelt beside it, tracing it with his finger. You're real, he whispered. Behind him, wind shifted. A skiff emerged through the swirling grit, sleek flame-glass trim, shaped like memory made solid. Serah stood at its prow, coat darkened by travel, eyes lit with purpose. She stepped off before the skiff fully landed. Saul rose, uncertain. Serah knelt beside him. I heard you. Saul didn't speak. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a twisted bit of ember glass, not broken, but unformed. Waiting. Serah took it gently. It remembers you too, she said. Behind them, Pyra shimmered on the horizon, distant but visible. And above, for the first time in years, the sky over the hollow reaches cracked with sunlight. That night, a campfire flickered in the ruins. Bran adjusted the skiff's stabilizers while Kip attempted to rig a transmitter from scrap. Technically, this is outside Guild broadcast range, Kip muttered. So either no one hears this, or everyone hears it. Let it be both, Serah said. Ash sat near Saul, teaching him how to read ember flow. You listen with your chest, they explained. The flame doesn't speak in words. I know, Saul said, eyes wide. It sings. Ash smiled. At sunrise, Serah stood on a ridge overlooking the valley. She placed the ember glass in the earth. Fire did not erupt. It bloomed. Tiny threads of flame spread from the stone, weaving through the ground, the air, the memory. A new throne began to hum, and the emberline pulsed, from Pyra through the hollow reaches to every forgotten ember across the world. Not a weapon, not a warning, but a promise. Epilogue, the seventh throne. The Emberline was never a map. It was a memory. A message written in heat and time, waiting to be read again. Somewhere beyond the hollow reaches, deeper than any guild chart dared to go, a throne lit itself for the first time in an age, not because someone commanded it, but because it heard a name. Ash sat cross-legged in the core chamber of Pyra, eyes closed. Across the Emberline, a new pulse shimmered, one they didn't recognize. They opened their eyes and turned to the flame-glass chart. Another? Kip asked, walking in with a steaming mug. I thought we'd lit them all. Ash tilted their head. This one is different. It doesn't call for help. It doesn't echo. It leads. Bran joined them, arms folded. Coordinates? Ash pointed. The glass etched itself in real time. 7 points glowed. An 8th blinked. Kip's brow furrowed. But that's outside the reach of any known emberline. Serah's voice crackled over the comm line, faint but steady. Then I'll go there. She was aboard a lone skiff, riding the thermal updrafts of a forgotten canyon. Her voice carried the quiet thrill of purpose. If it's a beacon, someone has to answer. If it's a trap, someone has to spring it. Kip laughed softly. She really doesn't know how to retire, does she? Ash smiled faintly. She knows how to carry a story. As the skiff cleared the final ridge, Serah looked out across a valley of obsidian towers, pulsing with cold fire. Symbols older than any guild were etched across the skyline. The last throne, the 7th. She placed a hand to her chest where her ember brand still burned. The flame flared once, and the throne answered.